If you miss any of the episodes, well, not too late. You can always find them on YouTube. Search for my name, Nana Abanamwa, or GH1 TV, and you can see all the previous episodes, including tonight's episode. My guest, as I told you early on in the show, John Intim Fojo. He's the NPP parliamentary candidate for Asen South. It's good to have you in the studio. First time having you on the show, right? Anyway, and of course, a very familiar face, George Spencer Quay. He's a member of the government communication team, and as expected, he walks in with the NDC's Green Book. Can you lot just let it go? You're such a show-off.
No, but you can't profess to be a good Christian without holding the Bible.
So if you're a true NDC, you must hold the Green Book.
A true Ghanaian.
A true Ghanaian.
This is the state of Ghana.
Indeed.
As captured.
John, you agree?
No, as it says, as captured by them. So obviously, Ghanaians have a different view of the state of Ghana. And so this is way different from what the picture really is.
Okay, so two things I want us to discuss tonight. The probe the NPP is asking for into the Waec leakages. And also, we'll talk a bit about the Panama leaks. I'm sure Spencer wants to talk a lot more about that. But yeah, we'll make time for that as well. Let's start with the Waec leakage. I've heard a number of people from the NPP communications team ask for a probe. And I mean, Samir Uko has been very vocal about that. And he's kind of re-echoing a lot of things that people are asking for, because we cannot hear every year of exam leakages, cancellation or otherwise, and nothing really happens. We don't get results. So what different thing are you expecting? Last year, the NPP asked for a probe. We know the BNI picked up a couple of people from Waec. Yeah. No report. So what different thing are you asking for this year?
Okay. Good evening, Nanaba, and good evening to the viewers across Ghana, particularly the good people of Asen South constituency. Nanaba, thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely.
Waec examination paper leakages has become an endemic problem that has been running year on year. In recent times, it's gone on very massive levels. I've come across a report from Waec stating the various cases from 2009, 2010, 2011 through to 2015, and the records are really massive and do not speak well for the standard of education that Ghana should be upholding. If I recall correctly, in the history of examination leakages, quite apart from 1990 actually, where there was a massive cancellation of some secondary school examination papers, we've not had any such incidents at such degrees up until 2009 coming. Last year alone, we had about 5 papers, major papers in the BEC cancelled. And these are of concern. These are of concern because it's a society that we are building, and we are raising these students to become the future doctors, to become the future engineers, the future journalists, and future nurses, future farmers. And what we would have expected that we would instill in them as part of our educational system is the values of morals, the values of honesty and integrity. But the body that is set up to actually conduct examination and actually oversee evaluation and assessment of examinations have failed us woefully. But what marvels me is the unconcerned nature that it seems to me that the government has taken in curbing this situation. Because
what do you mean unconcerned? The president has even had reason to talk about these
yeah, no, but it's not about talking. It must be fixed. It's
what are you expecting him to do?
What I'm expecting...
You know, Waec is autonomous.
Waec is autonomous, but it's operating the jurisdiction of Ghana with an executive authority, mandated to oversee the activities. Because Waec was instituted by law in 1952, and it's interesting going through their vision of becoming the flagship examination body in Africa, the foremost examination body in Africa. If these visions are anything to go by, it's become elusive. And watching on from 2009 to date, for the situation to have got to this level, I would have thought that it would be so easy for the government.
Why are you tracking it from 2009?
Because from the reports of Waec, which is a legitimate report, which we can all recall, the records of examination malpractices, specifically leakages of examination papers, actually took a very unacceptable rates and numbers from 2009. I have them here.
I know the report you're referring to.
Yeah,
I know the report because I have access to that report as well. But it has been persisting over the years.
Yeah, Nana, but over the years.
So you're looking at the scale from 2009.
I mean, it's
but it doesn't even matter if it's big or small. No matter what the problem is, it has to be dealt with. So it's not about how big it was in 2009, but how it started and how we didn't cure it right from the beginning.
Yeah, and I'll give you the history of examination leakages dating way back in 1990. That was when we had a very massive one coming up. Until then, there was none that I was aware of. Between 1990 and 2009, even if there were such incidents, they were on certain levels that were not of much concern. But we are talking about, I mean, the scale at which it is going. Even if it has been a build-up, I mean, as a society, what steps are we taking to curb it?
Okay.
And I would have thought that it would be so easy to constitute an independent commission to look into this issue. I've gone through the mandate of BNI, and the recent, they did lend a hand to Ghana Education Service when the service determined that there was a need to sanitize the payroll of the staff, some sections of the staff they had on their payroll, and also to audit the authenticity of the certificates that some of their staff actually presented at the time of their recruitment. And BNI did a very wonderful job by assisting the service in going through the checks, requesting people to how to.
So you're expecting them to
there were
do
a lot of
same.
fun, and even when the reports came out for Brongahavo region alone, there were about 647 cases reported. And I would have thought that if we have an institution as BNI, having shown over the years what they can do in such issues that are of national concern, they had done it. I mean, GES is an institution that is related to such the problem we are discussing today. So if they could do it to curb the authenticity of certificates issue, I would have thought that we've come so far. They should have constituted a committee to actually investigate and go into the root causes of this menace, and appropriate sanctions and punitive measures applied on the perpetrators to serve as deterrents.
Totally agree
because
with you on
Nanaba,
that one.
honestly, if we are to go into the details of this menace, it doesn't matter the political colors one is wearing. Once you're Ghanaian, it's of concern. Because it has repercussions on the standard of certifications that are earned in Ghana.
Okay.
It has repercussions on international competitiveness of students who studied in Ghana and want to compete out there with other people from different...
Okay, let me go to Spencer now.
Yeah.
Spencer, the probe, I mean, it's not NPP that should be asking for this probe. I mean, we should be probing all these leakages, shouldn't we?
First of all, let me say a very good evening to yourself and
John,
as well as the viewers.
have you met him before?
This is my first time.
This is our first time meeting. Yes, I mean, a call for a probe, I don't think it's far-fetched. For me, it's in the right direction. Of course, when there's a scandal of this nature, you would want to get into it to know what happened, and then going forward, if you know what happened, you then be in a position to prevent it from happening in the future. So I do not, I don't fault them. In fact, I support the call for the probe. Having said that, we as citizens also have it, or we hold it as a responsibility to the state to play our roles as citizens. And playing your role as citizens, one of them, if you have your ward and you go around looking for what is popularly termed as a poor. For me, it's irresponsible and reckless. Right from the start, you are teaching your child a very wayward lifestyle. You are telling your child that the best way to get to the top in this life is through the back door, through cheating. And I think that over time, that has been lost on us. I chanced upon something that someone wrote this morning actually, and it was trying to compare the poorer nations to the advanced nations. And in all circles, I mean, in all the debates, the underlying principle is actually the attitude of the people and not not the resources of the countries, because there are countries that do not have resources, and the piece makes mention of a country like Japan. It has absolutely nothing, yet it's arguably the third or the fourth largest economy in the world, highly advanced. You talk about countries with resources as well. You see some countries with resources that have developed. You see countries with resources that haven't developed. You realize that development in itself has nothing to do with material or capital or human resource. It has everything to do with our being, our attitude. The attitude of
human
Ghanaians.
resource. Attitude forms part of human resource. It's a major component. That's what actually makes human resource human resource.
Not necessarily. You see, when you define human resource, most often it's about a skill. But you realize that, look, for instance, I mean, having worked in abroad, the skill of the average Ghanaian can be compared to most of the countries around. The skill of the average Ghanaian, our intellect level, can be compared to probably our attitude towards work, our attitude towards governance, our attitude towards politics, our attitude towards almost everything. The question is, how many parents out there will hold themselves responsible in matters like this? Or how many parents out there can confidently say that when I get opportunity to get papers for my ward, I won't take it? That's a very big question.
Why is that opportunity even available? The opportunity for these papers to get out?
Yeah, Nana, but
you see,
1 minute.
it's a human institution. It's a human institution.
Exactly.
And for every human institution, we are bound to have miscreants around. I mean, such deviants would always be around.
Don't you think it's because we haven't taught anybody a lesson? Last year's was massive. We don't know who were the perpetrators. We don't know what investigation the BNI, Waec itself conducted. We don't know the outcome of the report, if they really conducted some investigations.
no prosecution has been made till now.
One problem I have, and I agree with what you just said, one problem I have is that in this country we assume those within the public sector space are untouchable. And without, boring listeners with litany of examples, we all recall some of these instances where any attempt to straighten anybody within the public space is met strongly by what we know as the union or what have you, and then it ends up taking a political twist. Why should, a crime of such magnitude be committed and over a year, I'm talking about last year, until date, nobody has faced the music. Nobody has suffered the consequence of that ill action. It's a big problem. And for me,
that is why he seems to suggest that government is acting unconcerned.
When anybody suggests that government is acting unconcerned, I try to dismiss such notion with alacrity, because
why?
Clearly clearly we are trying to suggest that it is necessarily government, and when we speak government, most often we are talking about the appointees, from the leadership to his appointees.
No,
we are saying that
government is not only that.
But
we have the law enforcement agencies
absolutely,
as part
but if you put
the
it,
executive arm of government,
if you put it in that context, then you and I know.
But
this is Ghana.
Talk of government.
He's expecting an executive action. Is that it?
Yeah, Nana, but we live in the country.
I think you have your time.
Okay.
I'll come to you in a bit.
You see, when you talk about executive action, what could be done? Perhaps we see some investigation. Culprits get punished. Here is the case that, yes, of course, the system is always out for, is always up for that. Let the investigation go on. Let culprits pay for it. Do people even cooperate with the institutions investigating?
That's a different matter.
No.
That's a different matter. It is different if these investigations
matter?
have begun and we're being told that people are not cooperating.
I think that in being fair to Waec, for instance, they instituted some investigation. They decided to relieve some people off their duty. As we speak, that matter is in court.
Are we talking
As we
specific
speak, that was last year.
efforts regarding Waec leakages?
That was last year. I mean, if you have an institution which is capable of conducting its own institution, and mind you, Waec deals with, I mean, they deal with all the security institutions we have in this country. So I do not see. Why are you expecting that you want the president to come and say, okay, let there be investigation? I mean, for me, it's latently lazy for me. If you ask me, you want the president to come and say that let there be investigation before you realize that there is investigation ongoing.
But nothing concrete is happening. And clearly the president is worried about it.
Absolutely.
That is why he talked about it.
Absolutely.
But of course, we want more than just a talk.
No, but you see, we can only prosecute somebody successfully when you have evidence beyond reasonable doubt against that person. These things are done. I don't believe it's an issue of one person. And look, like any other public institution that we have so-called termed as a mafioso or a cartel organization, have henchmen within the institutions that do some of these things. You cannot just, I mean, rope all of them in a single investigation. It may take time. You also need the coordination and the cooperation of the people within the institution.
Okay.
Now, Waec itself, I mean, with specific regards to this year's, Waec says that from their checks or from their investigation, they believe, and I heard their security coordinator says that from their checks, the leakage didn't come from them. Again, we always seem to limit this issue to Waec. Now, when the exam papers move from Waec, it goes to somebody before they.
Who is responsible for the papers?
Who's responsible?
Yeah.
I think
whose
it's
papers
have specific references to probably educate.
Okay.
Is a GS
to put things in proper perspective.
Is a GS.
Okay.
So Waec gives it. I mean, from what I heard, the security coordinator, their work ends at where the GS comes
takes over the papers.
Exactly. So in isolating Waec alone, we may not necessarily be dealing with the issue. So far, most of the suggestions that have come, that have come on board, seem to only cure the symptom. We are not in to cure symptom. Otherwise, we are going to have the recurrence, and that is what we have been doing over the years.
Right.
We need to cure the illness.
All right. John, you had a few things to say.
Yeah, Nanaba, as per the introduction of Spencer, you indicated that he is a spokesperson or works in the communication team of the government. And
where from that?
Yeah, that was the introduction that I had. And
well, you do.
Oh, okay.
You do.
If that is the disposition,
I know where he's going.
if that is the disposition of a government spokesperson or someone who works in the communication team of the government on a sensitive issue as this, the perennial leakages of Waec papers, then it suggests two things. Either the government does not prioritize the menace we are talking about, or they don't really see the gravity of the problem that we are talking about. There were contradictions in Spencer's submissions regarding trying to portray the challenges that the government would face in the prosecution. What are the challenges are you talking about? What are the challenges what challenges are you talking about? I'm telling Nanaba that this issue, the three of us were to be assigned to go into this issue. It's not far-fetched. The problem with the perennial leakages of Waec is two-sided. It's a two-sided problem. We have the supply side and we have the demand side. Now, the demand side is volatile and very little control is there. We can only influence that side by morale. I'll come into detail on that. But the supply side has to do with Waec. Waec does the printing. Waec does the transmission of the examination papers to the examination centers. In all the cases that have become news, it is the reportage carried it out such that there were leakages of the papers. Sometimes even in some cases 4 days a week before, sometimes 3 days.
I don't think that is the case this year.
It's not about this particular year. Last year, I read on one other, channel, we discussed this issue. And the story as carried out by one of the flagship newspapers. We are talking about this year. I'm talking about last week. And when the news came out, one flagship newspaper in Ghana carried it that the leakages in some papers were out 3 days prior to the time of the... So it's not in all cases that we can blame the police or some of the people who are helping in the transmission compromised. There are and largely attributed to leakages that come from the printing, leakages that come from Waec. It is so massive, even on common youth, WhatsApp groups. You find all these examination papers. It's embarrassing as a state. No, and it's not far-fetched to go into the supply side. And until, no,
1 minute.
I have my turn, yeah. Until we eliminate the supply side of the problem, we will only be juggling around the demand side. And now, if we're going to be in a nation, and for 4 consecutive years, there was no supply of examination papers before time, no matter how much money that parents had, no matter how much willingness that students were to actually patronize, no matter how willing that education institutions are to patronize, there will not be any supply. So they will be prepared. Now, what the system has gradually trained our students to become, we don't encourage them to work hard, to study hard, because no matter the efforts you put in, just when you're about to write your paper, you have the shortcut, you have the examination papers leaked for you to go and write. It was very sad in one of those cases, even when the student had the papers leaked beforehand, she had not studied anything, so she even had to write the answers on her lap. There are pictures of all that. This has taken a very a turn that is unacceptable, and it is not. No one should make excuse for government. All the this Waec institution we're talking about was an institution that came about by law and was given a legal mandate to conduct a certain, a mandate that was required of them by law. So there is a certain framework and standard that is expected of Waec to deliver, and whose responsibility to check that those laws, that mandate, and that quality, that standard is maintained. So if Waec is flouting those standards, is flouting their mandates, and day in, day out, the standards are falling, whose responsibility it is to take steps to ameliorate the falling standards that we are having. Now talking a little bit about the demand side, we have three parties who have interest in leakages of examination papers. We have students who have interest in it. We have even teachers who have interest in getting examination papers.
Sometimes the school, not just
and even the education
headmaster.
Institution, the heads, the PTAs, just to be able to
show off the right.
Preserve some past glory. And in last year's reportage that made reference to, the paper stated authoritatively that some of the institutions that were found culpable were top-rated institutions, Daily Graphic, top-rated institutions in Eastern Region and the Greater Accra region. So when some of these acts are perpetrated and it gets to unlikely events where generally papers must be cancelled, let's ask ourselves, who are the people, the majority who suffer? The majority who suffer are the vulnerable, the poor majority in the villages. I schooled from KG to secondary school in the village. Asin Krua DC JSS to Asin Manso Secondary School. And these concepts of examination leakages were so oblivious to us. We didn't even know anything about it. But when papers were cancelled, it affected all of us. Now, Central Region is a region that is acclaimed as hosting top-rated institutions in Ghana. But within the same Central Region, you find 80% of the institutions coming from the remote areas. So if certain institutions should, allegedly benefit from this menace, and then gets to a point where papers are cancelled, the majority, 80% of the institutions who didn't have any idea of this menace will have to suffer. Parents will have to raise money again to prepare their students to reset. And the trauma goes far and far. And at the end of the day, we sit and then we compare with certain other jurisdictions within which examinations are conducted without some of these problems occurring. And those are societies that have been built, and that is where our coming as a people, as citizenry, there's a society for us to build. And we must build that society based on the values of honesty and the values of integrity. Elsewhere, even if you left a student, alone in the class writing an examination, you are sure that they are not going to cheat. And it's actually commending to know that even Ashesi University has begun such a system. So that is where we should be heading towards.
Okay.
Parents must know that encouraging our ward to be able to, find these criminal acts as incentives.
Which is really important. That's what Spencer mentioned, the issue of attitudes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that forms part of the demand side of the problem. But of course, we can talk all about the demand side. If we don't tackle the supply side, if there's no leakage, how would, no matter the demands coming from the interests or attitudes or fallen morals or values of dishonesty or honesty, you would not have it, no matter how much money you had. So let's do, it's like when a facility catches fire and fire service personnel are there to put it out. They target the source of the fire. If there is any electrical plug that is causing it, they turn it off before they actually act. So that is where as a party, we are concerned. And would have thought that even the ruling government would have been the one to even see this menace of concern. But it is obvious. It is obvious who cares about...
Because of course, if the students do very well, it will be in the Green Book, right?
and you know what? I think partly it's also because of how society we have actually prioritized the issue of grading, such that if you didn't have a certain grade, you wouldn't qualify for a certain program in the university.
So, Spencer, there's been talk. I'm sorry. There's been talk about these leakages and how universities are actually being encouraged to offer their own entrance examinations to protect the integrity of the students who
get there.
We shouldn't get there.
We shouldn't even get there.
I think we were there once. I remember it was just a year, the early 2000s, I think just about 2001, before we entered the university, that that entrance exams was eliminated. For me, I think we've come a bit far to go back. What I believe is a second or perhaps a third body to organize.
We don't need anybody. We just have to enforce.
You think the monopoly for Waec should be broken?
I think that no. Please, you get your thing. I think that it's very important because you see, in this country, if you are a student, for instance, at the JSS secondary level, you have just one shot. That one shot is to write the BC, that's the Waec exams, and then at the SSC to the same Waec exams. Even in the advanced countries, there are options. You understand?
So it comes back to the monopoly.
I can't remember. It comes back. It comes back to the issue of monopoly, and I think that you see when there's monopoly in the system, it's not encouraging. In the sense that, you see, you don't have an option. No matter what we do, no matter what we talk, next year, everybody is still going to write Waec.
Yeah.
So if we do not get to punish people severely enough, and even when people have been punished severely enough, it has still not served as data, because people always believe that they can get away with less. Mind you, crime is an act, is committed in the mind before it is executed. And
but at least if we're making an example of people.
My friend that talks about the supply side has to be dealt with. Forgetting that dealing with the supply side is also an issue of morality. And it boils down directly to dishonesty. Why would somebody at the supply side, sell to the person demanding in the first place? It's purely an issue of dishonesty. Purely an issue of the persons being as in regards to the person's attitude. So when you want to take out the attitude aspect, and they say that, oh, let's then deal with those parents buying. What about the one selling? Is that not an issue?
If I talk about dealing with the supply,
is that not an issue of morality?
It is, of course. The point I was making.
So the point,
talking about dealing with the supply side.
When you have your shot, you can explain that. You see,
we're actually wrapping up on this approach.
You see, the problem, if we are to deal with it, okay, we should not be looking at government this, government that, government this, government that. And if, in fact, there is this erroneous impression that there are more leaks now. Back then,
It's not erroneous.
back then,
It's not.
back then, for instance,
records
today,
show.
today, what do we see? Today, what do we see?
How
we
many-
we see
I'll
these
give you
things
the
on,
records.
on platforms, on
Between
social
1990
media,
and
Facebook.
2015.
So you think they're being exposed more now?
Exactly, they are being exposed more.
But if
And
you go back to the Waec report, they suggest that it's actually going up.
Well, other
you remember the early
practices.
90s. I mean, you remember the early 90s when Waec had to cancel almost every year. They had to cancel 2-3 papers. How many people got to know about it in the first place? You understand?
Which early 90s
How
are you talking
many?
about?
92. Go and check 92. Check 93. Check 94.
How
And
many
there,
papers
there,
were
I think
cancelled?
it was in 94 that they canceled about 4 or 5 papers.
I don't quite remember.
Yes, I think it was. It was
1990
94.
was
and then
the
again,
massive scandal.
And then again, because of the absence of communication tools, which today makes it very easy for people to easily access this thing. Back then, you remember
That
papers
is-
was cancelled based on schools. It was so perhaps this school, you forfeit this exam. Today, it comes on a large scale. So if we want to measure the expose this year to that
So
of,
we should be getting ahead of the crimes. Isn't it?
No,
you see-
Nana, but
you see-
clearly,
you see, getting
Spencer's
ahead-
disposition
getting
is
ahead-
such
getting
that
ahead of
he's
the-
making
of the crime.
excuses for why we've come to this point.
You see,
Even
getting
making
ahead-
excuses that because we have technology advancement, it is exposed. See,
Which is quite true.
If that is the excuse we are
It's
making,
not quite true, it is
if
a
that
fact.
is the excuse we are making, then we are not going to take any action to probe. We're always going to find excuses.
Okay.
Because see, the reason why we have come to this point is because
thought I was-
stakeholders.
I
Yeah.
thought, I
So
thought
I
Stakeholders
hijacked you.
expected.
Okay, so please.
No, let me just
that.
land.
30
I'm not.
seconds.
I'm not.
30
Stakeholders
seconds, let him
expected
land.
to fix this situation have been playing the blame game. Last year, we had Waec accepting responsibility.
30
In
seconds
other
is up,
years,
actually.
they were pushing blame to heads of institutions. Heads of institutions were also
1 minute
pushing
now.
the blame to...
Spencer, you're not the
Spencer is
timekeeper.
talking about honesty and dishonesty. Because we know that in human institutions, there are tendencies for certain violations of the law. That's why we have the law to be enforced.
Okay.
So
Now,
we
is it-
have the
is it-
people
now when you
in
come to
government
the- when you come to the
who
aspect
are
of the
lacking,
law.
the
Okay,
will
when
to
you come-
enforce the
when-
law. Then
when-
why are
when-
you in government
when you
and
come-
making excuses for
when you
this
come
menace?
to the
It is very
aspect of the
embarrassing.
law.
All right.
Very
Is
embarrassing.
it
Yeah.
the work or is it the president who will go and catch somebody and put the person in jail?
No, someone like your
You
caliber
understand?
should not be
Oh,
asking
please,
questions
please.
like this.
That's-
When we
you
talk
don't
about
need to answer.
All right.
If you come on,
when
if you
probe
come on
was
platform
called
to answer almost every
into the
platform, you'll be found
abysmal
to answer
performance
almost
of
every
the,
question. You'll be found
of
wanting, so
the
just
Black
relax.
Stars
All right,
World
okay.
Cup Planning Committee. How was it done?
Where
How
did
was
that
it
one
done?
to come
There was
from,
a probe.
Spencer?
There was a
That
probe that
was
was
so
called.
unnecessary.
A probe was called. So
He's
I'm-
making a very
he's-
valid point.
He's
What
finding
is he
difficulty. He's finding difficulty
No,
in
is it-
relating how practical it is for a probe to be called into a menace like this. I'm just making a reference to him that the abysmal performance of the planning committee of the World Cup, what a probe was called into.
Yeah.
And then
So you are expecting
very interesting
a
findings
national
came
probe
out.
of that sort.
And I'll give you
Into
another
the
reference.
Waec
I'll give you another
leakages.
reference
Is it-
that
is
when
it
Ghana
why-
Education Service determined that there was a need to sanitize the
Yeah,
payroll,
you're taking us back now.
BNI did lend help. And they did lend a hand. And they
Okay.
fixed the situation.
All right.
So what is actually preventing
Okay, John,
the
you've made your
various
point.
law enforcers to deal with this
Spencer,
issue?
1 minute.
On the aspect of enforcing the law, of course, I mean, it is in it is in everybody's interest for the law to be enforced. But enforcing the law does not usually mean that if you suspect that this person, you go and
So
catch the
Spencer,
person.
how do you
Would
how
you
do propose
keep
we
quiet
deal
for
with it?
Christ's sake?
So how do
John,
you
can
propose
he
we
make
deal
his
with
point,
it?
please?
Did I interject you?
How do you you did?
I'm
How
very-
do you
I'm very good at
propose
this.
We solve the problem.
I'm
Okay,
very
John.
good at this.
Please.
So
Now,
suggest
on-
all the way
John.
forward. We are calling for
John,
it.
let him make his point.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the aspect of the law, it is extremely crucial that, of course, there is investigation, corporates punished to serve as deterrent. But as I have said earlier, it is not a matter of today, tomorrow. Sometimes these investigations could drag. And a classical example is last year, even when Waec has taken the, or perhaps seem to have identified those culpable for the
Yet
crime.
here we
And
are again.
Yet here we are again. And mind you, like I said, that matter is still in court. The rules of justice, as they say, grind slowly. It does not mean that nothing is being done on that aspect. It is so misleading and unfortunate that anybody or anyone would assume that posturing and come on here to propound it as a philosophy for people to buy.
Something has been done. What has been the
and
results?
for me,
Okay.
I always find it problematic. You understand? I always find it problematic
That
for the NPP especially. And
what do you
mind
mean NPP
For
especially?
NPP to be concerned about the falling standards
Is
of
it-
education, for NPP to
The-
be concerned.
No, they're also very
when-
concerned
when-
about that.
when you
I
talk- when
think
you
they're
talk
also
about-
very concerned
I
about
believe
falling
we
standards.
all
But
know.
his position is
Everybody-
clear. He doesn't
I
seem
believe
to
we
have
all know.
any.
I believe we all know the ratings of these exams in the past years, and we can make a very good comparison between the years.
Oh, I knew you would go there.
No, it's not a matter of you know.
I knew you'd go
fact,
there.
we can't
Anyway,
change facts.
so
And this is the same.
Jerry
the
Coleman-
If you are
same
touting-
people.
if you are touting
The same
performances
people
with leaked
who
papers.
today say.
And is that the
that-
reason why
Okay.
you don't seem to want to do anything
Calm
to
down,
solve the
both of
menace?
you. Calm down, both of you. I'm actually drawing the curtain on this one. The backstops are Waec. They are to blame for these leakages. The menace has been there ever since. That is Jerry Coleman. Kobe Arthur says Spencer is confusing the issues. The system just doesn't work. Waec needs a complete overhaul, and Ghana must grow. Let me go on social media now, specifically on Twitter, to read out some of the messages there. Abdullah Mohammed, when will you invite parliamentary candidates for Nandom? Okay, don't worry, I'll invite them.
Honorable
Yes,
Mutala.
yes, I will invite them, no problem, don't worry. Kwame Abrefo says, Nanaba, I agree with Spencer when he says that we should allow the system to work. This case has been in court. We should allow the court to work to find a solution, before we find a solution to the problem. Nanaba, I think the NPP is just pretending. They're jumping on this to do politics, I'm sorry. This is coming from Hassan.
What is politics about the national issue?
Well, Paul Nyamado says there are humans who handle these papers and the processes. They should be questioned. The politics should be taken out of this issue. Very soon, you would hear the other side, a different thing. That is still coming from Paul.
There's a national issue. And
But is it
we've
the
taken a
NPP?
nationalistic
The NPP
position
has still not
because
learned why
this has
they are in opposition.
a
They always assume.
No, but
they always assume the
I
average
was happy
Ghanaian.
when the NPP called for a probe. I mean,
I
I read
am
that
not
story
talking
and I was
about.
really
I'm not
excited.
talking about a probe.
Spencer
I mean,
and
I
his
told you
people
I
are
agree.
not
I agree to the
enthusiastic
probe. Yes, there
about
should be a
any
probe.
probe and
But the
accountability
point,
calls.
the point
It-
is that
it shows
when you
clearly the priority
have
they
a rep from the
attach
NPP
to education.
who
They
now
have fallen
thinks that
I
the
don't know who
problem
to
is that
listen to
is that
now.
of John
We're taking a break.
of His
Speak to
Excellency John
yourself.
Mahama, then there
I
is a
Sit back.
asked
problem.
you a simple question. How
Do
do
stay
you
with us.
intend to solve it?
Okay.
And you were clueless.
Oh, now you've gone quiet.
A nation is only as strong as its people. Healthcare infrastructure is a key component in ensuring this. We have dedicated ourselves to providing Ghanaians with access to this infrastructure because we understand that a healthy nation is a productive nation. Changing lives, transforming Ghana.
The countdown is on.
November 7th, who are you going to vote for?
The misunderstandings,
The Supreme Court hearing, I think that was a blessing in disguise for our democracy. While there may have been a few disadvantages, destruction of businesses, a bit of tension,
it's informative and educative.
51% of Ghanaians are above 18 years. And we need to bear in mind that before you can vote, you have to be 18.
Constituencies are discovered.
In 2012, the Ningo Prampram, the district, and the district capital was taken to Prampram.
Who will lead Ghana come November 7? Join celebrated pollster Ben Efson as he counts down to election 2016 right here, only on GH1 TV.
Welcome to the countdown to 2016 elections with yours truly, Ben Efson.
You're welcome back to the show. Before we get into the Panama leaks discussion, just a reminder that if you're interested in reporting for television news and also reading the news, well, you have a shot now. On Wednesday, you can turn up at GH1 TV. The studios is here, very close to the STC. I'm not too sure of my bearings, but yeah, find your way to GH1 studios on Wednesday morning. The audition starts at 10 a.m. and you should come along with your CV. So if you have the passion and you think you've got what it takes to be a TV news reporter or anchor, bring along your CV and come give it a shot. Also, on Thursday, beginning this Thursday, we're dedicating State of Affairs to business. Of course, elections is definitely business, so Kweku Temi will be presenting the business side or the business edition of State of Affairs. So we'll join him on Thursdays. It means I take Thursdays off. Anyway, so we'll continue with our discussion. Spencer, Panama leaks. Yeah, I had Dr. Mani Buama the other day responding to President Kufuor on Alaji and Alaji.
Oh, okay, yes,
on Radio
Saturday,
Gold.
yes. So much on point.
How was that on point?
For me, I'm surprised that the NPP is not calling for a probe into this Panama leak. I'm extremely surprised. The question is, what is the Panama leaks or the Panama Papers all about? That's for me very, very interesting. What is it all about? Why is it that there is this seeming silence from the majority of media institutions on this Panama leak? Something that is trending worldwide and has Ghana prominently featured. It has our former president, His Excellency John Kofi Ejekun Kufuor, prominently featured with his family. The wife is there, the son is there, he is also there. And the NPP does not deem it
Why are you leaving
necessary.
out Mr. Kofi Annan?
I'll come to that.
No, because you're talking about Ghana prominently featuring.
Yes.
That you mention one name
Yes,
and you leave out the other. So let's go with both.
I'll come to that. No.
Why do you want to deal with it
It's
separately?
my prerogative.
I know.
Yes, it's my opinion.
But why are you dealing with it separately?
Because Mr. Kofi Annan has not held any public office in this country to account for monies used thereof. We are talking about the then president who some few years ago handed over to the late John Evans Mills. His Excellency, may he so rest in peace. We are talking about perhaps one of the worst times of corruption in the history, the 59-year history of Ghana. And that's clearly stated in the Panama leaked papers, that due to the enormous corruption allegations against the president, they even considered not dealing with him. And the NPP, whose flag bearer, Honorable Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, believes that the issue of corruption should be the key determinant in this election. He's kept quiet. He's never said a word. He hasn't called for a probe. Is that not interesting, Anama? The same papers, the same leaked papers. And I will delve into the NPP corruption. But the same leaked papers gives us a hint of how the former president is linked to the Kempinski Hotel. The trust.
Where are you bringing all this from?
It is in the papers. It is in the leaked papers.
Which of them?
The trust that his son set up, which he was running for. As he said, running for the father and the mother. The same trust has shares in Kempinski. And the question is, why are we not interested in this? What over? Look, there's pressure in UK over David Cameron's and dad's account.
Yeah.
There's pressure on him to use, and today he addressed Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
We know the head of TIA, the Transparency International in Chile. He's gone. Iceland president, he's now a former president. He's gone. The casualties are being counted. U.S., though there is no known mentioned name from U.S. I mean, in terms of political stature, there are companies that are being investigated. Russia is doing some investigating its people. Why are we not talking about this? Why is it not the dominant issue in our media space today in this country? Mind you, in 2001, the first scandal that hit the Kufuor government, which gave us a spectacle of what to expect in the coming years, was when we were told that a farmer had offered 100 million Ghana cedis, 100 million cedis then to innovate the private home of the newly elected president, then he had been sworn the newly elected president, John Ejekumi Kufuor. 100 million, 40 million Ghana cedis, a farmer. We saw that. That was the first. Nobody saw the farmer. Nobody saw how that money came about. As we speak today, a court, the Supreme Court in South Africa, has ruled that Jacob Zuma pays back money to the state used to innovate his home. And as a result of that ruling, there is political pressure mounting on him to step down. The Panama Papers tells us that barely months after His Excellency John Ejekumi Kufuor becoming president of this country, he deposits $75,000.
No, I mean, there's a station, and so certain facts that are false and lies must be corrected.
I'll come to you very soon.
It must even
I'll come
not
to
be
you.
allowed
I'll
to.
come to you pretty soon.
I've read that.
I'll come to you
report.
pretty soon, John.
There was not a single
John.
person that says that President Kufuor transferred 75,000. Such allegations are grave.
John,
I've allowed
I will
other
come
things
to
go,
you.
so
Please, let him make his
important
point.
I think that
put
when
things in perspective.
the NPP perhaps does not appreciate the English language when it states clearly.
Spencer, that's below the belt. What
No,
do you
no,
mean
but
they
no,
don't appreciate the English language?
The leak said he was running a trust for the father and the mom.
Okay,
So who does that?
Who understands English language?
Who does
the
that? When you say
is the evidence. When you are
hold
talking
on.
about evidence-based,
Hold
statements.
on.
The independence,
Hold
brochure
on.
is an example.
John.
An instance of
What-
your
whatever I
John,
have
you
to
speak
say-
when I invite you
whatever
to
I have to
speak.
say, I will say it.
Go ahead.
Yes. No. The report didn't say Mr. Kufuor Jr. was running his own account. He said he was running a trust on behalf of his mother and his father. And his father was then the president. That is how it captured it. And please, you may have to read again if you haven't. That is how it captured it. So the assumption, the underlying principle, the underlying assumption is that account is Mr. Kufuor. So when was that $75,000 made? Barely months, less than 3 months coming into office. And that's just about the same time that we had 100 million cedis being given by an unknown farmer for the renovation of his house.
Okay.
You would
You're
recall.
bringing all of this
You
in.
would recall.
Wait. You're bringing all of this in, and I want to believe it's just an attempt to soil the image and the reputation of President Kufuor.
I do not think for once, I mean, when an issue of corruption.
Who has said he's corrupt? Who is suggesting corruption in this matter?
The Panama Papers,
So it is the ultimate for
as
you
has
now.
been leaked by Fonseca, clearly tells us that our then president ran an offshore account.
His son.
He's on behalf of the president, as captured in the. He ran a
have read
trust.
that report.
He ran a trust.
Should we
I'm
go
not
for
so-
that?
I'm
Go
not
for that.
rude
Let's go for it
to allow-
because
He ran a
such
He had a man
throughout
to name-
the
lies
report,
to be,
throughout the reports, the Association of Journalists keeps saying that Mr. Kufuor, the son of the former
Yes.
president of Ghana, there is nowhere in
What
that
the
report
beneficia-
where
the
there's
the
nowhere in the
beneficiaries are
report that
named.
says
Did you
that
hear-
he was
did you hear the
running
mother?
that $75,000 account for his father.
Hold on. hold on.
I'm holding on.
Hold on. Let me explain.
Let me go to John. You are done.
No. You interjected and he did.
I didn't interject. I didn't interject because you
were. Before I could talk,
you were churning out falsehood.
Falsehood?
Yes.
Well, in this country when
I'm not talking about 40 million farmer. We are talking about this Panama leak.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I am saying that as captured in the papers.
Which papers? The Panama
papers.
It didn't say that he was running the account for his father.
Then we are being unfair. We are being unfair. The paper says that Mr. Kufuor Jr. Was running a trust with the mother and father as named beneficiaries. That is how come the mother's name was captured in there. That is how. So how was the
John,
mother's
you
name
have the
captured?
floor.
Yeah. Now, secondly, is it during the term?
Spencer, let him speak. You had a chance. You were going to run about the farmer and 40 million.
You're only repeating.
Let me run up.
I mean, mischievously repeating falsehoods.
This
go on.
This Panama leaks.
30 seconds.
Thank you very much. This Panama leaks, as a matter of fact, opens up an age-old issue of corruption during the tenure of Mr. Kufuor.
Let me read it to you.
And if you give me, if you permit me the latitude.
Hold on.
Okay.
In any case, yes, we are going. Everybody is talking about these Panama leaks. When did it become a crime to have an offshore account? Don't you have an offshore account? Maybe you don't.
No, I don't.
But when did it become a crime to have an offshore account? Wait, hold on. The report says that the Ghanaian part of the document features John Kufuor, that's the president's son, who is said to have controlled a bank account in Panama worth $75,000. In early 2001, shortly after the start of his father's first presidential term, Kufuor appointed Mossack Fonseca to manage the Excel 2000 Trust. Later that year, it controlled a bank account in Panama worth $75,000, the papers add. The documents further revealed that Kufuor's mother, Theresa Kufuor, then Ghana's first lady, was a beneficiary of that account. Nowhere does it say.
No, go down. You see, the mother and the father.
No, it doesn't mention. It doesn't mention the father.
Nanama, now you admit that now you admit that the mother is there. If you go further down, you will see the father's name. Now, you said I should round up, and then you read it. Now, this Panama leaks actually opens up an age-old
you have said it.
Corruption
what
saga.
Do you have to say?
Look, it opens up the issue of the Hotel Kufuor Diwawa, and we all recall that it's the same
the 30
junior
seconds is not over.
the same junior. It opens up the Iseku Gate.
Okay, it's enough.
Oh, Nana,
it's
please.
Enough, Spencer.
What about the Charles Bintum?
Nanaba, let us put things in perspective.
And why is Nanado not commenting?
It is unfortunate.
Nanado says corruption.
Spencer, you are done.
Spencer, you've had your turn.
Which corruption? I mean,
how
are you running straight to corruption?
It's an anti.
It is actually an attempt that must be condemned. Any attempt by any individual to want to, tag the ex-president John Ejekum Kufuor as corrupt, as mischievous.
It is in there that he's a beneficiary.
It's because of 70,000 CDs, $75,000.
That's condemned in no uncertain terms.
Okay, such a
how much did you open your account?
Any attempt.
Today do you have 200 Ghana in there?
Let him make it.
Today do you have 200 Ghana in there?
Yeah, still.
That is a
Spencer, can I make my points now?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Any attempt by any individual or group to tag President Kufuor as a corrupt president.
Is it the individual or the group that put out
as highly outrageous and mischievous and must be condemned by.
Spencer, can he make his
no
point?
uncertain terms, that attempt must be. Mr. Spencer, please be disciplined and let me make my submission.
Well, he told you he would do it to you.
And so,
I'm not doing anything.
Hold on, let him make
one of the things that must be put in perspective is that this is a man that in his tenure of office is acclaimed the world over as one of the greatest presidents in the world, so long as transparency is concerned, so long as accountability is concerned, so long as integrity is concerned. So any such attempt to tag him otherwise is actually a failure already. Now, I'm glad that you read a portion from a certain statement that you read, which has debunked every
How did it debunk? Did you not hear the names?
It does not talk about President Kufuor.
Let me come in. If we are talking about corruption,
John's mother and the father.
The point I want to make here is that MPP is not corrupt. President John Ejekum Kufuor is not corrupt. Now, the falsehoods and the lies that my brother has just given here, I'm not surprised because, I mean, in the propaganda, they actually have a record for such palpable lies. Now, talking about the issue of corruption, let us put things in context. Proving corruption. We have $300 million in a merry deal. In the car power generation, when it came into the country,
so
there is evidence. There is evidence of the fuel supply contract, which was initial tender was opened, and there were vendors that tendered in, and there were credible bids to provide fuel as low as $2 million. As low as $2 million.
They are flag bearers relatives.
And
Spencer.
eventually, that bid was curtailed, and then sole sourcing was awarded for a $9 million a month supply of the same quantity,
so
same
you were
quality.
Expecting them to go by the same.
An excess of $7 million.
Yes.
That is corruption. No, so that is an established corruption, which is established and is there on records. We have the bus rebranded.
Didn't Mr. Kufuor
we are in this country, and a president presides over an executive ministry
Spencer.
where a contract of $3.6 million is awarded to an individual or company. And then it turns out that there was excess of 1.9 million Ghana cedis that has to be paid. That is corruption. We have inflated contracts with no value for money. We ask ourselves, the president and the Bank of Ghana have actually considered and accepted that within the 7 to 8 year period of the NDC, President John Mahama, we've had 90 billion Ghana cedis as a debt stock. And ask yourself, what was this $90 billion used? I mean,
$90 billion?
90 billion Ghana cedis. What was it used for? What's the value for money? I mean, they create loot and share. When we talk about corruption, it is synonymous with a certain group every Ghanaian knows. We are talking about a party under the leadership of President Mahama that a whole DCE who was appointed by the president would come out to make utterances and make confessions that there were several billions of Ghana cedis that were paid to ghost projects. Up to now, what has become of such utterances? A world DCE of Atebubu will come out and say that several hundreds, 400 billion Ghana cedis was paid to projects that were never executed. And up to now, no probe, nothing has gone in. Who is corrupt? And if we are talking about a tenor or a president who is corrupt, it is so mischievous to even rope in MPP or even to bring in President Kufuor in the first place. Now, we are talking about a party that has records of very prominent functionaries. Very known functionaries.
You're taking me through a tall list now. For some reason, I forgot we're talking about Panama.
Overnight, within a year or two in politics.
So shouldn't there be a probe into the Panama Leaks?
Some of them, my colleagues
Spencer, you were giving examples. You were giving examples of people resigning, and
but that is
telling you.
I know the salaries. I am telling you that I know people in the government's functionary who a colleague employed them for about a year and 2 years of their corporate experience prior to their political appointment. I know how much they were paid. They come into politics and within a year they own fuel stations, they own properties, and these are. I mean,
how
this is
that even
Ghanaians. We are talking about corruption.
But if you go into political office or you get employed anywhere and you have a filling station, means you're corrupt.
How much is the value of a fuel station?
No, I'm asking you a question.
How much?
Do you know what? Do you know?
How much is the emolument of people holding such offices? Let us not go into that. So we are talking about a man who was successful already in his private life. President Kufuor was already successful before coming in. His son was already a successful man who had worked most of his corporate lives was in blue chip companies in UK and other parts of the world. So
brings the discussion back to what he was doing, how much he was doing. Don't forget, this is a public document that you can easily access from the US. How much he wasn't even
working. We are not talking about
$3.6 million. Didn't the report also add that in 2012, Mr. Kufuor asked that it should be closed? I mean, the
we are not talking about an Atebubu DCE confessing that under the authorization of the president, he has paid 400 billion Ghana cedis to projects that were non-existent.
These are
records. So the records of corruption in the NDC government shows clearly, and it is unprecedented. So any attempt by NDC functionaries to tag NDC, MVP or any of our functionaries as corrupt is a failure already.
Calm
So,
down.
Spencer,
I have always said,
bring corrupt cases and
Please,
evidence.
your
We are
time is
talking
up.
about
Your time-
evidence-based, and I've given you evidence.
He's
Raise
asking, he
evidence.
asked you a question earlier, you didn't answer.
Which question was that?
That why is
And
the
people call
NPP
him
silent on the Panama leaks?
What is the silence he's talking? What silence is he talking
Why
about?
is-
and the
why is
irony,
Honorable
see,
Akufo-Addo
the
not-
irony when we're talking about
why is Honorable
BC,
Akufo-Addo not-
when we are
Why
talking
should he
about
be talking
Waec
about?
leakages,
Why?
He says
you
corruption
were
is a key
talking about
But
determinant in
what is the
probing-
corruption here?
Panama
It
leaks.
is, it
what
is,
is
it
that?
is, it is a crime to have an offshore account.
Are we saying that
It's a
This is a
crime
private
to
man.
make your mother
No,
beneficiary
no,
of
no,
your
no.
account.
Are we saying
What
the
are you
British
talking
are chasing
what
the
I will,
leaks?
what I will
I
advise
would say the
Mr.
British are
Spencer
chasing-
is
I would
that
say-
there's rule of law in this country. If he and his cronies have any evidence, any
To
grounds
suggest that
to
there's been some
justify,
corrupt
the
acts.
courts are there.
Okay.
The necessary actions
You see,
be
this
started,
brings
and
into
we'll
sharp
come back.
focus
We'll come back
The
here, and we'll
litany
know
of
that it is just.
corruption allegations during the 8-year tenure.
Oh, there
of
was no
Mr.
corruption. If we are talking
We all
about
recall
corruption,
Dr.
what I've just
what's
listed
his
here
name?
are just a
Dr.
few.
Gambila, former
So let
deputy
us not
finance
go
minister.
Why,
in there.
In his
if-
We have a whole
if they are that
$200
corrupt,
million
why
SADA
haven't
project
you,
gone
why
by. Up to
haven't
now,
you
what
jailed a
prosecution
single
has
one
been
of them?
Up to now, what prosecution
single
has
How
been
many
done?
of them
In the
have not been
SADA
to
scandal,
court?
in the
And
SADA
you and
fiasco.
look,
What prosecution
I
has
maintain
been done?
I maintain.
I'm asking
I
you, in
maintain
the- we are talking about
the
state
position that-
resources.
And that's
This is a private man who
John,
has worked hard.
John,
to
John,
get
you're
his money.
becoming a bit rowdy.
And that's the
Calm down.
a great deal of job
I'm
by
just asking
exposing
you a
Calm
question
down.
to-
by
to
exposing
answer.
those judges.
Oh,
And
you,
that's
not you
the-
two.
No, hold
Not
on.
you
I-
two.
no,
You're also
no,
going
hold
on that
hold
trajectory.
Hold on.
That-
I am saying that. I am saying.
So you're saying
Anas
that
did-
no, wait.
Because look,
Spencer, let me stop you
you
in your
recall-
tracks. Let me stop you in your tracks. I asked you a simple question.
And
If
I'm giving
any
a very
of them,
simple
wait,
answer.
if any person in the NPP administration was corrupt, why haven't you jailed a single soul?
Not a single
You're
prosecution.
telling me
No, have
that
you read-
in the face
have you read
of
Dr.
the
Gambila's book?
wait, you're saying
Former
that in the
Deputy
face.
Finance Minister
Hold
under the
on.
Akufo administration.
You're saying
Is
in
it a
the
Supreme
face.
Court? Is it a Supreme Court
It says
archive?
that
S-
The
hold
book you're
on.
making reference to, is
the-
it a
It is not
Supreme
a
Court
Supreme Court.
archive?
It is not a Supreme Court.
government
archive.
of
What you're
Spencer,
saying is
Mr.
unfounded. If you have
was
any
that
grounds,
of what? A procurement
just follow
government.
the,
In his book.
the laws.
Spencer,
If you have any grounds to
You
indict
recall
anyone that you feel
Spencer,
was
hold
indicted
on.
in the Panama
You're saying in
Papers,
the
you can
face
go ahead and
of the
prosecute.
judicial scandal, the corruption
Absolutely.
scandal from
Absolutely.
Anas, you're
I will
saying
say this anyway.
it presupposes that some judges who sat on the cases you took to court, the NPP people you took to
I
court.
have not
And what
said-
cases?
that's what you're
and what
suggesting.
cases were taken
No,
to
no,
court? Because
that
the
is
court
what I'm
is a
saying.
transparent system.
Yeah.
I am saying
There was
that
no
You're
prosecution.
speculating.
did this
Did
country
what?
a great deal of good job. That's what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying.
By
That's
what?
and I'm
So
giving
By
the
that
using
NPP bought
corruption.
the cases,
as to how
they
you-
paid off.
as to
That's
how-
not,
as to
that's
how you
not,
No,
that's
but
not
no, but in
Well,
the first place,
but
in
why
this,
do you
in
have
this
it-
country,
why do you
if
even
there
come
is-
up with a
if there
template?
is any legal prosecution, the records are there in the courts.
Group issue.
Whether it is
They are
curtailed, whether it is
13.6% in
discontinued,
Jubilee
the records
field.
is there.
Which-
And there is no record of any MPP
After,
functionary
Okay.
prosecuted
after
All
3
right.
years,
or trialed.
which after
So
3
the
years,
records are there.
All right.
The corruption record,
was
the
worth
unprecedented corruption record of the
$300
NDC.
million
stands
You're
in the
both
case.
talking.
No.
Really?
His stand doesn't seem
would
to
you
be
just
ending.
behave?
No,
His
when
stand
it's
doesn't seem
ending,
to be
I'll tell
ending.
him to
Yeah,
end
so
it when it's
please
about
behave.
time. Hold
Oh,
on,
no. If
John.
we are talking
You
about who is
speak when I
behaving,
ask
you
you
know
to
who
speak,
is
please.
behaving here.
John,
No.
you speak when I ask you.
No,
And
but
Spencer,
we
you're
will
talking too much. You're not answering my question.
What question?
Is it a crime to have an offshore account? Is it a crime to make your mother a beneficiary of an account?
We need to know where the source of that money is coming from.
So have you found out yet? Before
And that is
you're,
why
you're running,
that's
so
exactly
fast.
why I'm saying there should be a probe.
Okay.
Because we all know. Look, we record the Macmillan textbooks issue, which got the Honorable Osafo Mafu getting the sack. What happened after that?
There's a question
no money,
for you.
No money, no money.
What
We
is that
record the
related?
sale of land.
Somebody is asking you a very simple question. If you also thought about these judges, you've considered what may have happened during the election petition, because you're quick to say that in the face of this judicial scandal, blah, 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 blah.
I do not think that in that matter there was any Supreme Court. You see, we need
There was anywhere.
It didn't bother on any Supreme Court judge. Please, this one was from the magistrates to the High Court.
How convenient for
no,
you.
there's not. It is a fact.
Okay.
We cannot change a fact. Now, I am saying that based on the litany of corruption charges during the 8-year tenure of His Excellency John Ejekun,
Jail one single person.
No. I don't think that the issue of jailing.
No,
is
because you're
necessarily
saying, so bring us a list of people who were corrupt.
And that is why I'm saying, look,
who undertook any corrupt practices during that regime.
I was on campus when Mr. Aruna Iseku, the then chairman of the NPP,
we're going to talk about kickbacks.
Was not allowed to come to his own party's
okay, Spencer, you're done.
Based on the fact that he had said the then president was not directly taking the kickbacks.
You are out of time, John.
Where was he taking the kickbacks?
Come in now.
Where does the kickbacks go?
He's talking. I don't talk when he's
talking.
Where
does the kickbacks go?
Spencer.
No, but let's answer.
You're out of time. I don't have answers for you.
That is the point.
Come in.
That is why there should be a probe.
The point that I want the Ghanaians to note is that my friend here just made a submission, a wild allegation that as per a report he had read about Panama Papers, specifically, that $75,000 that was related to Mr. John Adukufo, the son of Mr. Akufo, was transferred to him by his dad.
We had similar story regarding
and this is a very wild allegation on record. It is a lie. It is false. And so I'm just letting him be mindful of that allegation.
Spencer.
That he must be prepared to have evidence to prove that allegation. That I mean, as politicians, I believe that we must be measured and in our utterances that we on radios, on TV stations, as flagship stations, as GH1, the whole of Ghana is listening. So if you have evidence to back that claim, then be prepared to produce it. But all that I will say is that when it comes to corruption, there is no argument about it. Ghanaians know which government is corrupt. Records are there. Supreme Court, High Courts, archives are there to show which functionaries and previous functionaries of former functionaries of parties
have you seen the beautiful edifice, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
In conclusion, I will advise any such functionaries of the NDC who have cause to believe that any member, my advice is that if you feel that any member of NPP or any former functionary of NPP was indicted in the Panama Papers, the right procedures be applied.
All right.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of talking
let me take some messages on social media.
When you had people guaranteeing private loans with presidential letters, I mean, Office of the President's letterhead. What happened to Bamba?
Sometimes those we put in authority to protect and safeguard. Excuse me, please.
It will help you.
Sometimes those we put in authority to protect and safeguard our democracy are sometimes a threat to democracy itself. That's from Sanatu Zambang. All right, Samuel Boabing says the Panama Papers can't save this incompetent ship of a government from sinking. Change is a must. That's from Samuel Brian Boabing. I think...
It's true.
Really? I think this Panama issue is serious. The media must look at it more.
We must open a probe.
Isa Ibrahim Nanaba, what is the NPP man saying? That the NPP is not corrupt? Was it not President Kufuor who decorated himself with gold chains? I don't know.
What is the grounds for this?
Okay, I may know.
For this, I'm very surprised some of these.
Takashi, you're surprised at what?
Some of these texts.
Why?
I mean, in the spirit of tolerance.
People should.
That's what I'm saying. That I'm surprised.
Takashi says, "I can't survive."
Gold chains. Okay, you're talking about gold chains and corruption. And where were even gold chains?
Do you know how much that gold chains cost?
Okay, Ohineba PK says, Jida, Sada, RLG laptops, etc. The NDC man for me, are they done prosecuting? I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Are people not refunding?
Okay.
Give me an instance.
Gideon says
corruption allegation and
Gideon says corruption everywhere.
How much has
you go? Who is asking the two of you to comment? I'm reading my messages.
Oh,
can you just? Thank you. All right. Gideon says we have corruption everywhere we go. Our leaders must change. God help Ghana. Lionel Messi was even there, and JDM is out. Okay. I don't. Who told you all these? I don't understand, honestly. All right. The Panama Papers, okay, I think I've read that. Please tell Spencer to calm down. Okay, Spencer, that's for you. Okay. Daudi says the NDC communicator is not speaking straight to the issues. Nanaba, bring him on track. Well, he was speaking to the issues. Well, you went off track just a bit, just a wee bit. Is the Ghanaian BN9 done probing the corruption cases under the NDC administration? You shouldn't start a fight you cannot win. I don't think the media is doing enough investigations here. It's been given to them and they're all quiet about it.
Yes.
Is the media NPP media? I totally disagree, and I think it's unnecessary. If you look at today's papers, majority of them carried this, actually, the story, the Panama
They carried
leaks.
Dr. Omani's...
Is that not related
yes.
to the Panama
But you
leaks?
see, where I think our interest should lie as a country, look, we remember, we had the Right Honorable Secretary looting his house. A clear case of abuse of power. We had a then finance minister contracting a loan for the state from a saloon in the UK. We had the same finance minister going to sign a loan for the
if
country.
all these lies, if
Going
all
to
these
sign-
lies
and
have
the
any
post-
grounds,
Spencer.
why hasn't there been any prosecution?
My brother is relatively young. That's why he calls these,
No.
these
You
things.
didn't
like-
hear about the barbering
I
shop.
take
I
exception
think
to
my,
the,
my brother is
the
relatively young.
denigrating.
So he...
But
I'm
you're also
saying
very
that
young.
if there is any
young
such
in
grounds,
politics.
why wasn't there
he's
prosecution?
Okay.
relatively
Why
young.
wasn't
He
there
says these
prosecution?
are lies.
All right.
You remember that Mr. Osafo Mafo going to sign a
And I'm
contract
saying that if,
Okay.
if
in Japan,
any of these allusions
in German,
you are making
right.
had grounds,
Thank you.
why were there
It's
no
actually time
prosecutions or
to
trial?
go. Thank you very much, George.
no, but let me
Spencer.
use your platform to congratulate GH1 for discussing the Panama Papers. And again, use your platform to call for a probe. As a state, we should be concerned about what
Thank you.
happened during the 8-year tenure of...
Thank you.
Nana, but happy
Spence-
belated
George-
birthday
John,
wish
Mr.
to
John.
my youth commander, Mr. Samia Oku, the National
was
Youth
his birthday
Organizer.
yesterday?
Yeah.
Ah,
He's
right.
not a commander.
So happy belated birthday wishes to the
He's not a
National
commander.
Youth,
Can you imagine?
the National Youth Organizer of the MPP.
I think it was organizer
Yeah,
he was looking
so-
for. Not
No, he said
commander.
commander.
No, he was looking for.
Anyway,
I,
Sammy,
I call
he's a
him
friend.
my
You
youth
call him
commander.
commander.
I'm youth.
Okay,
and I
happy
call him my
belated
youth
birthday to
commander.
Sammy
So
Oku.
don't play mischief with it. Don't
All
play
right, thank you
mischief
very
with
much,
it
George
at all.
Spencer Quay, who's
Yeah.
a member of the
Militants.
government communications team, and also John Intim Fojo. He's the NPP parliamentary candidate
you are
for
general
Asin
what?
South.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You are general.
Glad to have you here.
You are
And
generous.
thank you for your contributions to the show this evening. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Thanks to Akosio V for styling me tonight. Have a blessed evening.